Well, I was born in Tipton, Missouri, and I was born at home. And I've lived here practically all my life. It was segregated. This side of the tracks was all black, mostly all black. Couldn't eat in the restaurants and things like that. We couldn't go to the same schools. And it was a segregated little town. I've been a mechanic all my life. And I said, well, I don't like books that well, so I'm going to have to earn my living with my hands. And I made that up in my mind early, and that's what I did. One of the reasons I volunteered was because I was talking to a recruiting officer, and he told me they were looking for mechanics, and they're going to organize an all-black outfit in Tuskegee, Alabama. And he said if I'd sign up as a mechanic, he said he almost guaranteed me that I'd get the job, and I did. That's what I call a crossroad in my life. Either join or be drafted. I enlisted in 1941. Went to Fort Leavenworth, Kansas, and volunteered. Then after that, they sent me to Tuskegee, Alabama. I took my basic training down there. After they bombed Pearl Harbor, and they knew they was going to have more pilots. And they were asking for white pilots. See, they didn't want black pilots to join up. We had black guys that could fly then, but they didn't let them in the Air Force. So then after we got to pushing it and everything, well, then they decided to, in Washington, D.C., to go ahead and try to, we called it the Tuskegee experiment. They didn't think we would ever make it. Then when the basic training was over with, they sent me to Lincoln, Nebraska to airplane mechanic school. After we finished a school in Lincoln, Nebraska, they signed us an airplane, and they signed us a pilot, and our pilots and the mechanics all worked together then, and then we just hit the boat and went overseas. I think it took us about 27 days to get zigzagging back and forth. Then we landed in Italy. I was stationed in Toronto, Foggia, and Monaco, Vena, 3 different places. You was assigned an airplane and a pilot, and you had to keep that plane going. So I was crew chief. I took care of the maintenance and all that on it. Our first planes were P-40s, and those were kind of, to be honest about it, kind of hand-me-down planes. And the old P-38, we had those. Then later on, we got P-51s. And the way we got to P-51s, they said we weren't getting any airplane, we weren't shooting down any airplanes. All we were doing was flying harbor patrol. So Benjamin O. Davis, they called him back to Washington, D.C. And they said, we're going to have to break you all outfit up because you're not doing anything. He said, you don't have any proof, you're not participating. He said, we can't, if we don't see anything, said we can't shoot it down. Said, but if you give us permission to protect those bombers, said, we'll give those bombers A1 protection. Said, I guarantee you we will. He come back to Italy, well then that's when we first started protecting the bombers, flying close protection. Well, I would refer to it as our plane. It is mine on the ground, his in the air. That's the way I looked at that. But we had one pilot at a time. I just had one airplane that I took care of. We'd put the hours in, like 60 some odd hours they'd fly. And they'd send them back to the States. And then I'd get another pilot, and then he would break him in. Some of them they'd fly low or do strafing missions. They'd shoot at them from the ground with rifles, and you'd have little bullet holes in them. Sometimes they couldn't get the material, so we actually used beer cans to patch a hole. But we went ahead and got that job done and got that plane back, and he was ready to take off again. and we had that plane ready to go. Well, we've lost several pilots. Just at bad days, they'd have to go out and fly or go on a strafing mission they couldn't see, and they'd flying so low. We had several planes just not to come back. And you could almost tell the sound of your airplane when it did come back. But I never had one not to come back. We'd go down to meet them at the end of the runway and get up on the wing and ride back up on the wing back to the place where we parked the planes. Colonel McGee, his plane was stationed out about 3 different airplanes from where mine was at. But he was always a friendly guy. And Colonel McGee, I'll say this for Colonel McGee, he was always, we called him Ready McGee. If it is day or night, or go on a special mission, McGee was always ready to go. So we called him Ready McGee. I remember Harry Stewart because he was the last pilot I had, and he shot down 3. Well, actually, I was in the service 2 years, 11 months, and 29 days. And overseas, I was overseas for about a year. VE Day did happen while I was stationed in Italy. And that's when we went down and celebrated that night at the bar. It was a happy day until we hit the dock. When we hit the dock, it told us black to the right, or black to the left and white to the right. And they didn't call us black either. And that kind of took the pep out of a lot of us right there. I wanted to find out whether I could pass the test or not. When I passed it, I wanted to go serve my country because I thought it was a duty to do so. And when I went back, I was probably about 2 weeks. I didn't stay. I went right on back to work pretty shortly after that. I talked to Colmore Electric into hiring me. And I told them, I said, if I go to work for you, give me 6 months, 6 or 8 months. And I said, if I can't prove to you that I'm saving your company money by doing your work, I said, you won't have to tell me to leave. I'll be gone. And I was there 29 years. I worked out there at Como, and they really didn't know that some of them didn't know I even was a Tuskegee Airman till after I'd come home, retired. I didn't go around bragging about I was a Tuskegee Airman because we just went and done what I was supposed to do. See, my dad was a teacher, and he wanted me to take him to a track meet one day. But when I got over there, I saw this little girl in a pleated skirt. She was a cheerleader. But anyway, I eased over to her and got to talking to her, and she was right friendly. Little brown eyes sparkling up and talking to me. So anyway, I said, well, would you like to go over and get a sandwich, when the track meet, when they broke up? And she said, oh, I might go and eat. And we got to talking, and maybe it was about another 3 weeks, I met her at a restaurant. We started talking, and I got to kind of liking her, so I said, well, can I come over and come to your house and meet you sometime? She said, well, yeah, I think it'd be okay. But anyway, that's where I met my wife. And we started dating, and finally we decided to get hooked up. So we got married December the 7th, 1949. We have 3 children, 2 boys and a girl. We got 8 grandchildren, 6 girls and 2 boys. We have 2 great-grandchildren. We've had a good marriage, and we never had any problems, so I say the Lord is blessing me right now. Well, he wrote an article about me, and it is in the service about me. I don't know how he got a hold of me, but anyway, he called up one time and wanted to write an article on me, and he did that. And he said, well, you got a pretty interesting story. It tells my story. They didn't think we could fly. They didn't think we could be Tuskegee Airmen. We were called to experiment. They just experimented with us, and they thought they were going to kick us out after so long a time because we couldn't do the job. And the Tuskegee Airmen, we proved that we could fly. We proved that we could work together as a group. I don't know what to say anyway. It's just one of those things that we're grateful that we did help to change things. We believed in the Lord. We might have done some things that we shouldn't have, but we were still soldiers and believed in God. But we couldn't have done it without the help. And I say we got the help from the Lord. That's what I said. We couldn't have done it without him. We might think we could have, but we didn't.